my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Brian, but is that Raven and Stevie Richards were both pretty pivotal to your path into ECW. And I had a conversation not long ago with Lodi on this show, and he was talking about he shared quite a similar story about how Raven was instrumental in paving his road into WCW, and him ended up being on WCW pay-per-views very, very quickly, probably before he was ready. Um, it seems to me that Scott Levy, the man, not the character that we all know as Raven, seems to have played a very big role in helping a lot of talent along the way. Like, what are your memories of? I guess what are your first memories of meeting with Raven and Stevie, and is that a fair assessment about him as a man?
Yeah, like I said, I moved back east from Ohio, and I started showing up to shows, and there was three shows that really cemented, me going to ECW. There was a show in Baltimore, a promoter named Dennis Whipwreck, who Mikey Whipwreck's name was kind of a takeoff of. There
Okay.
was a show, they would name certain wrestlers after promoters, so instead of Joel Goodhart, there was Joel Hartgood, and stuff like that. And then I did a show in West Virginia for a guy named Tyler Cates. And then I had a buddy, Norm Connors, who was running shows out of Pittsburgh. And I worked for him a couple times when I was still at Al's, and I had moved back east. And I genuinely liked him. We were both young dudes, in the wrestling business. He was a promoter. I'm a wrestler. I said, "Hey, man, I see you got two shows coming up. I know they're booked. I'm just going to come out and hang out. I'm just coming out to hang out. No pressure. I just want to be around." So I took and my car was, it was shot. I mean, my car was in the shop at the time. So I took like a 6 hour Greyhound bus ride out from Philly to Pittsburgh, and his roommates picked me up, and I went to the first night show, and he threw me a bone. He was like, "Hey, you're working Batman." There's a local, there's a local wrestling veteran, I should say, named TC Reynolds. He was like the local Doink, or
Right.
wrestled at TC. This night he was wrestling as Batman, and he's like, "You're wrestling Batman." I was like, "Fine, cool, thank you." And I wrestled Batman. Match was okay, you know. But after the match, I go in the locker room, and I was always taught, watch the rest of the show. So I knew Raven was on that show with Stevie. Oh, and Raven and Stevie were on shows in Baltimore, West Virginia. They were on this show as well. And Raven was working somebody I went to Al school with named Ray the Crippler Roberts. I was like, this is going to be interesting. Ray Roberts was an interesting person. He had done time in prison, and then he got out of prison and wanted to become a wrestler. And for
Right.
some reason, he got over like $1 million in that area. Fans just took to him, and it's like we're all like, "All right, this is cool." So he's wrestling Raven that night, and I went, "Oh, this is gonna be good." So I watched the match, and then Raven comes back through the locker room. I go, "Oh, I really enjoyed your match." He goes, "Hey, kid, nice moonsault." I went, "Oh." He watched my match. So the next day we went to lunch, and he pitched the idea for Stevie. Stevie Richards was his lackey, and they wanted to have a lackey for a lackey. And they're like, "Well, you fit the description." And they had a guy in mind, but he couldn't wrestle. He wasn't a wrestler, but he dwarfed me. But they wanted somebody who can, go in the ring, take bumps, feed in for like, Sandman or whoever. And I was like, "I'll be in ECW, right?" He's like, "Yeah, yeah." He goes, "But you have to wear half shirt Daisy Dukes." I go, "But I'll be in ECW, right?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "I'm in. I'm cool." And then I debuted October '95, and then that footage never aired because there was the fire incident between Terry Funk and Cactus Jack.
Okay.
So my debut went bye bye. So in the meantime, they had to re-debut. They were thinking of stuff. Raven was thinking of things, and he thought of the Blue Meanie character from the Yellow Submarine, the Beatles movie,
Yeah.
Beatles cartoon. He's like, "Hey," and again, we were working from Norm, and we're driving home in a blizzard, and back to Raven's place, and 5 hour drive in a blizzard, which is fun. And he goes, "Hey, did you ever see the Yellow Submarine?" I was like, "Yeah, when I was a kid." You remember the Blue Meanies? Yeah, vaguely. And he's like, "Oh, you're going to be the Blue Meanie." And he starts selling me on it. He's like, "You're going to want to paint your whole body blue, but just do your hair." I was like, "I'll be in ECW, right?" And he goes, "Yeah." I'm like, "All right, okay, cool, I'm in." And then November to Remember '95, I debuted as the Blue Meanie at the ECW Arena. And just like Al, those car rides with Raven, I've learned so much just from the art of doing a promo, from the art of timing and, letting things breathe and, stuff like that. Yes, a lot of stuff I similarly, learned from Paul Heyman, timing, doing promos, stuff like that. But if it wasn't for Raven, Stevie pitching me to Raven, Raven watching my match, and then both of them pitching me to Paul, I don't know where my career would be, or I don't know if I'd be here talking to you. I don't know where my trajectory would have gone, but Raven was a huge part of that, and I learned so much from him, and I owe a lot to him. I broke in with Al, but I had so many good mentors. I mean, every good wrestler is a mutt. They're a little bit of different leaves from different trees. So I got to sit under Raven's learning tree for a good couple of years, and he came up with so many different characters. He came up with the Blue Meanie. He helped Steve Richards. He came, Kimono Wanalaya. Came up with the Dudley gimmick, and he's always willing to teach people who are willing to listen.
Mm.
And that's an important thing. You got to be willing to listen and learn. I was more than willing to listen. So he's one of the best minds in the business, and just I mean, stuff they do down at the Performance Center. The Skull sessions with working on promos, and I was doing that with Raven in '95.
Yeah.
Standing in the middle of the room, and all right, Blue Meanie, do a promo about this, that, and the other thing. And in character, you'd have to do a promo on the fly, and that was all thanks to Raven and him coaching me, to do that. But yeah, he's got his fingerprints on a lot of different things in this business, and hopefully he gets a little bit more recognition for it.